Yes. Welcome again.
Sorry, is it possible to explain the last line in that sleep while awake? So long as sleep's ignorance then permeates?
Yes. And we still have not answered my first question, which was, why does Bahun go on about deep sleep all the time?
I think I might need some more time to, just think about this. Sorry. It's
No,
not
no, no.
something on top
I
of
wasn't
my
asking you, Neha. I wasn't asking you. I was asking the group.
Okay.
You gave a response. I love that. You gave a response, So that's good.
Yeah.
If you're not giving a response, by the way, that's good too. You don't have to. But if you give a response, that's great. And if you don't, that's great too. It's up to you. There's no pressure. And if you give a response and it's not perfect, that's great.
Yeah, no, the thing only is for I personally feel that this particular is only when once someone is liberated or has realized the self. But if I am doing any day-to-day task and try to hold on to the meditation on self, I know it is recommended also to do your task, everyday task, as if you're trying to do with your true nature or trying to go towards. But I find it difficult sometimes. I don't know. Maybe there are so many thoughts going around, but yeah, I would like more thoughts from your side.
So there's a common misconception that Bhagavan says, Ramana says, carry on with your everyday tasks and do self-inquiry while you're doing your everyday tasks. There's a common misconception that this is his teaching. Now, he did say that many times, but that doesn't mean it's his teaching. Do you understand? If someone asks me, how do I get to the post office? And I'll tell you how to get to the post office. Does that mean that's what my teaching is? I know that's a rather ridiculous example. The point is that not everything that Bhagavan says is his highest teaching. It's context dependent. If Bhagavan's highest teaching, which means the teaching that leads to liberation, lots of the things he says don't lead to liberation. You ask Bhagavan how to get to the post office, and he tells you how to get to the post office. That doesn't lead to liberation. I know that might seem a bit ridiculous, but in the same way, if people insist that, people often came to Bhagavan and said, can I do this practice? And he'll say, yes. They'd say, can I repeat this mantra? He'll say, yes, you can repeat this mantra. Ultimately, this will lead to liberation. He's right. But in the same way, if you want to go to the post office, and then he tells you how to go to the post office, and you go, ultimately, that will lead to liberation too. Because everything ultimately leads to liberation. But that does not mean that these teachings are liberating. Does this make sense? So his highest teachings are the ones that lead to liberation. They're contained in the text, Who Am I? Listen to what Bhagavan writes in Who Am I? If I can find it. What were we on before? Question 14, weren't we? Question 14, first sentence in the second paragraph of answer to question 14. Do you remember question 14? We read it before. Is it possible for the residual impressions of objects that come from beginningless time, as it were, to be resolved, and for one to remain as the pure self? That's the question. Do you think that's possible while you're washing the dishes? Is it possible for the residual impressions of objects to be resolved? That means to disappear. Listen to the first line on the second paragraph. The mind should not be allowed to wander towards worldly objects and what concerns other people. This is his highest teaching, verbally, on this kind of topic. If Bhagavan's recommendation was that you should carry on living in the world and do self-inquiry while you're washing dishes, while you're going to the post office, then why would he accept all these people to give up their worldly life and live with him on Arunachal? Why doesn't he kick them all out and say, what are you doing? Don't give up your worldly life. Bhagavan gives us what we want to hear, in a way. He responds to us the way we come to him. So if we come to him and we want to carry on doing what we want to do, he'll say, yes, do that. And these are the sorts of conversations we see recorded. He's trying to encourage people based upon where they are. But really, it's very difficult to do self-inquiry while you're washing the dishes or something like this. Because you can't turn within, away from objects, towards the self if you're having to focus on objects. To wash the dishes or something like this. And this is what I mean by many people misunderstand the actual teachings of Bhagavan. Yes, he said these things. I believe Sri Sadhuram has written on this. I don't know where. I'm sure I've read. I wonder if it's in the, I think it might be in the text called The Paramount Importance of Self-Attention. Have people heard of that text? I put it some months ago on tomdas.com. The Paramount Importance of Self-Attention. And it's talks by Sri Sadhuram. And I believe in there he writes about this. But the more discerning among you will have already started to realize this.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. I'll read it again. You're
Yeah.
very welcome. I'll read that section again. I've lost it. Where's it gone? Oh, here we go. The mind should not be allowed to wander towards worldly objects and what concerns other people. And in the answer to question 15, I'll come to you in a moment ago. In the answer to question 15, the question is, how long should inquiry be practiced? The answer is, as long as there are impressions of objects in the mind, so long the inquiry, who am I, is required. So again, if you're discerning, you'll see what this means for your practice and when you can do it. You know, if you're riding a motorbike down a busy road in a city centre, you probably can't do self-inquiry at that time. I certainly would not recommend that. It's it because Bhagavan says, as long as there are impressions of objects in the mind, so long the inquiry, who am I, is required. The problem with these sentences, they're juxtaposed with other sentences, and so you can miss them. So, for example, when it says the mind should not be allowed to wander towards worldly objects and what concerns other people, the next sentence reads, however bad other people may be, one should bear no hatred for them. So, because that doesn't necessarily follow, those two sentences don't necessarily follow on from each other, you can miss the first sentence. We see the same, I think, with the next one. It says, how long should inquiry be practiced? Answer, as long as there are impressions of objects in the mind, so long the inquiry, who am I, is required. And it says, as thoughts arise, they should be destroyed then and there in the very place of their origin through inquiry. So again, because it's not quite the same point, you can miss it. Whereas if it was just a sentence on its own, with maybe asterisks around it, you maybe spot it. But amongst all the other teachings, the mind tends to miss these teachings, these sentences.